Auston Matthews wins it in overtime for the Maple Leafs as they finally score a win over the Buffalo Sabres. And boy, oh boy, did we ever see a flurry of trades go down on Wednesday. We'll get into all of that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs Center podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. It's going to be a busy show, Dave. It's going to be a busy show. Today was a busy day in the hockey world. Not so much on the ice, but off the ice for sure. There were 5 big-time trades that went down on Wednesday that we'll get into. We'll talk about them and give our 2 cents on each of the deals, and then maybe discuss what else is out there to get traded between now and Friday's trade deadline. And the Leafs scored a win over the Sabres as well. An overtime winner. We'll recap that game. But there's also another game tonight against the Boston Bruins. So we got to preview that one as well. So lots to get into. So let's get right into it, Dave. Let's start with the win. Let's start with last night's victory. 2-1 in overtime against the Sabres. Auston Matthews with the overtime winner. What'd you make of their performance, Dave?
It wasn't the offensive slugfest we thought it was going to be. I thought that was a little surprising. It just felt like they were trying to not, I wouldn't say play conservative. I loved their start. The Sabres didn't have a shot goal until like the 15-minute mark of the game. I thought the Leafs kind of missed an opportunity there to really get ahead in the game. And I mean, they did score the first goal, but like to really take advantage in that first period. You can tell the Sabres are a different team than what I think we've seen from the first part of the season. Unfortunately, they wait until they're out of the playoff picture to start playing well. It's kind of typical. But I thought the Leafs had good pressure. They didn't make a lot of mistakes. They didn't shoot themselves in the foot. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. You know, they weren't perfect, but they didn't make those back-breaking plays that we saw the other night.
Yeah, they played pretty reserved, I would say, and that's probably the reason why they only scored 2 goals tonight. They weren't really like fully pedal to the metal. And I think Sheldon Keefe kind of nailed it right on the head post-game when he said, last time we played these guys, we gave up 9 goals. Like they were probably just hyper-focused on not doing that again, not making those same mistakes, not turning the puck over, and focusing on their defensive play. I thought Nylander in particular actually really stepped up his game defensively. I thought he had a good 2-way game. He was aggressive on puck carriers tonight, forcing turnovers. I thought he was a stud, seemed to have a bit more jump than the rest of the guys. But overall, I think the Maple Leafs definitely deserved to win that game. It wasn't high event or anything like that. But, hey, 2 points is 2 points, no matter how you look at it. But what I really take away from this game, I think mainly is Ilya Samsonov's performance, Dave. Like, I don't know if I was alone on this take or what, but I was talking about it yesterday, how I felt that this would be big for like Samsonov's psyche, because the last time he had played the Buffalo Sabres, the guy gave up 5 goals on 19 shots. He looked awful. And a week later, he was out of the NHL. Right? Like it was the Buffalo Sabres who really like started the demise of Samsonov here. And he ended up having to, leave for a week, basically collect himself before coming back to the NHL. This is the first time that he got to play them. And I thought that, he played really, really well. He was able to kind of put that aside and he was steady tonight. Great tonight, I thought. Like he wasn't tested all too much, but when he was, he had to come up with some big saves. There was a couple of stops in the third period. There's that one redirect where he had to quickly make an adjustment. I thought, that glove save in overtime right before the Leafs were able to score on the next shift. I mean, that's obviously big. You don't make that stop, you lose the game. So I thought Samsonov was solid tonight. And to me, that was my biggest takeaway. The fact that, he was able to not even think about what happened last time this team played them. And he was able to go out there and, it's just another solid game for him. And I think we can confidently say, like, Sammy's back. Sammy is back. He's got some confidence. He's playing with a little bit more structure than he was previously. Samsonov has had a string of pretty solid starts. And, I thought tonight's win was definitely a key one that I thought was notable, at least.
I mean, the big one is obviously, as you said, with the final minute of the game, the Darling shot that got redirected.
Yeah.
That goal goes in. It's just
Backbreaker.
Total backbreaker. You kind of worry a little bit how Samson's going to feel because it wasn't a game where he was tested a lot, and it's those types of goals are just like you need a save there. Although that would have been that was a tough save. Like I thought for sure when they were getting pressure, I said, I don't like the way this is looking. They could score right now, and he makes that save. And the other one in overtime, right? Dead chance on that for Thompson, and he stops with the glove, right? Those are the saves there that in a game where the margins are so slim that you just hope that he's mentally ready for it, right? That he's ready for just because when you're not tested a lot, it really your mental ability to just focus in those certain moments is crucial.
What I like about it, and I noticed this also in his last start over the weekend as well. Like he did it once. Who'd they play on Saturday? Why am I blanking? The Rangers? Was it the Rangers? Yeah, he did it against the Rangers, and they did it again tonight. Like flashing the leather. Like it's a phrase used in hockey. You get a nice glove save, you just kind of get a little showboat, flash the leather, but to me, that just kind of is like, okay, the guy's feeling it. He's oozing confidence. Sheldon Keefe pregame spoke about how Sammy it looks like he had gotten his swagger back. He looked like the Sammy from last season. And when he's doing stuff like that, that to me says, you know what, you're right. It does look like he's got his swagger back and he's feeling confident. He's feeling good about himself. It's good to see. The Leafs had themselves a good problem right now where you have two goaltenders who, you have trust in ultimately, because it wasn't that long ago where there was zero goaltenders who you had a lot of faith in for the Maple Leafs. And now you got two that you can, have trust in, and a decision's going to be made at some point to who's going to start game one. But right now, it's an open competition. It's really a 50-50, and Samsonov is doing his best work to try and win that job. And I think tonight was, another step in that direction. What else did you pull out of tonight's game, Dave?
I mean, Willie, I thought this was a good bounce back performance for him. I think just that line in general needed a bit of a bounce back. They were a little sluggish against the Bruins. So I thought that was a big one. And you got to give props to the blue line. No Jake McCabe.
Yeah.
That's not like, I don't think people realize how important Jake McCabe is. I think he's their most viable defensive defenseman because they don't really have anyone that plays like he does and is taking on what he has this season. So I thought that was between, Nylander and the blue line. I thought those are two crucial improvements that we saw tonight.
Let me give you a couple of stats and you tell me who I'm talking about, okay? While on the ice, the Leafs outshot the Sabres 13-2 when this player was on the ice. When this player was on the ice, the Sabres only had one high danger chance, one scoring chance in general, and in nearly 18 minutes of action at 5-on-5, had a 92% expected goals. Who am I? 92% led the game. Led the Leafs, led the game. Who am I?
Would that be he is one of the worst defensemen in the league, Ilya Lyubushkin?
Ilya Lyubushkin, the Boosh, with a big time game.
There.
Just quietly a good game for the Boosh. Now, granted, like I think he was sheltered a little bit. Like I went and I took a look at the zone starts, and he started a lot more of his shifts in the offensive end. But when you have Morgan Rielly as your partner, that's going to happen. You're going to want those two starting in the offensive end anyways to try and generate offense, right? So it makes sense, but still, it's really good to see. And so far it's only been, I guess, like 2.5 games out of Lyubushkin, but so far so good on that bye. There's a lot of conversation about whether or not the Leafs still need to go out and make an addition. We'll have that conversation on the other side. But Lyubushkin certainly, went and said, "Hey, I think I deserve to be in this lineup going forward." With the performance that he had tonight, he was one of my 3 stars. We didn't really do it 3 stars, but to me, it was like Nylander, Samsonov, and Lyubushkin were 3 of the best players for me when it came to what I saw out of the Maple Leafs tonight.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Third line too. Thought the third line, they had a lot of opportunities. McMahon was pretty trigger happy tonight. Yarncroc, if he would have been able to, pull the puck to his forehand, not once but twice, maybe he would have scored a goal. But getting himself in those areas, those tight areas, is still a good sign. I like to see Yarncroc in tight and getting those shots or those opportunities. Eventually, I would like them to turn into shot attempts and shots on goal and hopefully goals eventually. But it's still good that he's getting into those areas and getting those opportunities.
Yeah, the third line continues to be responsible at both ends of the ice, provide some good minutes there. Yeah, and I think I really do think that Ilya Lyubushkin, again, I don't know what people were expecting when they brought him over. We weren't expecting a Noah Hanifin like player coming back. Just needed someone to be steady and just do the simple things right.
Dude, Luke Schenn, we were hoping that he comes in and just does what Luke Schenn did. And honestly, people forget, but Lyubushkin was kind of like, he didn't play as well as Luke Schenn did when he got here, but he was like the Luke Schenn edition of the year prior, where it's like, okay, he's actually giving you more than you thought, which is good. Played, with Morgan Riley, he was a good partner there, and he was serviceable. Luke Schenn gave you a little bit more. He was actually like solid in the postseason. Hoping we can, see that type of elevation from Lyubushkin this year in his second go around with the Maple Leafs. Now that he's, 300 games into his NHL career, maybe he's got a little bit more kick to his game. We'll see. Speaking of Lyubushkin and acquisitions, boy, was there a lot of trades in the NHL today. Why don't we take a break, come back, get to the wild day just 2 days before trade deadline. I don't even know if there's going to be anyone left on Friday for Sportsnet and TSN to break trades for. But we'll talk about the trades that we saw today, 6 biggies, and there's still a couple of names. So we'll touch on those and maybe who Toronto might still be looking at heading into Friday's deadline. And we got a game against the Bruins tonight as well. So we'll touch on that a little bit too. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
No matter how the game went last night, anytime you take the field, you got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. It is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed partners with you every step of the way through the hiring process. Find great talent through their time-saving tools like Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent. According to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide, and Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nats back in 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. All offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 job credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. You can find us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcast from, whichever platform you use to listen to them, and also up on YouTube as well. And just a reminder, We're still on our road to 5K subscribers on YouTube. We are just under 300 away from getting there. Once we do, we're giving away a Leafs jersey. So if you want to win yourself a Leafs jersey ahead of the playoffs, make sure you get us to 5K by the end of the season, and make sure you're one of those 5,000 people, and you will get a chance to win that jersey. So again, subscribe, give us a like on this video, hit the notification bell so you know exactly when new podcasts drop each and every morning. Speaking of morning, I had an early morning today, Dave. It was like Christmas morning for me because Series 2 came out, right? And we had talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, how there was this $1 million one-of-one Connor Bedard card that everybody is chasing. And, the fact that his Young Guns, just the regular base Young Guns, was going for like $1,000, $1,500. It's insane. The hunt for this guy's cards is absolutely wild. So I was up pretty early and I went to my local store. I pre-ordered, some boxes, and I ripped open into a couple of tins. Sadly, I did not find the Connor Bedard Young Guns. But I did get
I had a feeling when Mike was showing up on the podcast, he didn't find the card with the $1 million bounty on it.
No, I would have quit on the spot. I wouldn't have. But I definitely would have been on my way to. Actually, it's Buffalo. Is actually where you have to go. So I wouldn't have had to go too far. It's actually in Buffalo where the store that's doing the bounty is located. So it wouldn't have been that far. But so I didn't get the Young Guns, but I did get a Young Guns checklist that features Connor Bedard along with Leo Carlsson, who's the next best player in this set. I did get his Young Guns, actually. So I did get a Leo Carlsson. So I did get that. And actually, to stay on brand with us here at Locked On Leafs, I also got a Fraser Minton Young Guns and our guy, Bobby McMahon.
Beauty.
Bobby McMahon, 27-year-old Young Gun. Bobby McMahon. You got a 19-year-old in Fraser Minton and a 27-year-old in Bobby McMahon. But it's fun. It's a great hobby. I really, really enjoy it. Did you see Carlo Koliakovo's post on Twitter?
Yeah, I was gonna when I saw it, I was gonna message you, be like, "Is Carlo a millionaire again?" Again, because he's already made millions in the NHL.
So I had somebody reach out to me and they were like, Carlo Koliakovo posted on Twitter that his kid pulled a Connor Bedard Young Guns rookie card. He actually pulled two. Extremely lucky and two very valuable cards. But somebody had messaged me and they were like, did you see on Carlo's Instagram? Did he just pull the $1 million card? I'm like, no, that is not the $1 million card. It's expensive. Like they're both worth probably $1,000 or so. They're very expensive and worth a lot of money, but far, far away from the one-of-one gold outburst $1 million Young Guns. Not hasn't been found yet. It's still out there. Still out there somewhere, Dave. So, or anyone else.
There are a lot of people posting about that Bedard, and I'm just like, too many people are posting this for it to be actually true. Like, you know what? A lot of people say, I got the card. But like,
no.
Supposed to be rare?
Lots of people have the Bedard Young Guns, like the regular base one. Like there's thousands of those, but there's one in particular that's gold printed. It has like a gold foil on it.
That's what I mean.
That's the one that people are looking for. No one's found it. No one's even said they found it. I don't know where you're seeing that.
No, I know, but a lot of people are posting this Connor Bedard card. I'm getting a lot of people saying, "Oh, I think you got." No, I don't think that's the one.
No, that is not the one.
It's probably sitting in one of your other tins you haven't opened yet. Yeah.
Don't tell me that. I actually don't say that because I wanted to keep some sealed and keep them away from me, and then in a few years maybe they're worth more money, and if it's in there I'll be really, really upset if I end up selling it to someone else. But lots of fun ripping into Upper Deck Series 2 today. Let me know down below if any of you guys ripped into any, if you got any cool hits, or if you want more hockey card content. I'm always willing to talk about it here on the podcast if you guys want it. Maybe it's more of a summer thing, but or once the playoffs get going, but always willing to do it here on the pod. That being said, Dave, tonight, Leafs, Bruins, big game. Big game. A very valuable 2 points tonight. They missed on an opportunity to climb the rankings, to climb the standings and get tighter to them on Monday. This one, I think if they have any hope in hell of keeping up with the Bruins for home ice advantage, I believe they have to win this game. It's near must win if they want home ice come round one of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, like the Leafs have games in hand on Boston. They have 2 now, 7 points back. You lose this game. I'm not. Yeah, it's. I say that
You lose this game. Now you're down 9 points, and sure, you got 2 games in hand. But even if you win both of them, you still have an additional 5 points you got to make. 6 points, really, because they lose out on the tiebreaker. So there's an additional 6 points. That's 3 more wins than they'd have to get over the Boston Bruins, and not a whole lot of games to get it done either.
And Boston continues to vulture those overtime points. Like
Another one
they
last
have
night.
15 overtime losses. They have 7 more than the Leafs. Funny enough, the Leafs are 7 points behind the Bruins.
There you go.
See,
there you go. Hey, those pity points, man. They come back to bite you. They come back to bite you. That's for sure. I guess Joe Wall's going to get the start tonight, so he'll get an opportunity to avenge the loss from Monday. So we'll see what happens there. Jake McCabe, after tonight's game, Coach Sheldon Keefe said that he'll be a game time decision. There was a bug that was going around. He wasn't feeling up for the game against Buffalo, but they are hoping that he'll be good to go against the Bruins. And that would be, a big loss if he can't. Like, there's one, being able to step up, have guys step up and play Buffalo is one thing. A lot tougher to do when you're taking on the Boston Bruins, especially the style of game that Jake McCabe plays.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like, I think he's the most valuable defenseman, as I said. Like, he's been the Jake Muzzin replacement for this team, and I hope. Look, and I kind of said a few weeks ago when Jake McCabe was getting his head hit in quite a bit, then it'd be nice if Jake McCabe got a little bit of a break. I didn't mean the guy needed to get an illness to have a break, but I thought he's a guy that I would like to see get some games
cutting his nose open every game. That's what he wanted, a break for his nose.
Yeah, I wanted a break for his face from being hit by sticks and not getting penalties drawn in as a result.
What are you going to be watching for tonight?
I think the big one here is I want to see how the top guys play. Like, if you are going to beat a team like Boston, your top players have to do it. We talked about how obviously Liljegren didn't have a great game. I'm sure a lot of people will watch to see how
that's for me. Honestly, that's the one for me. I want to see Liljegren's response tonight. I want to see him play with some jam.
Yeah,
because he didn't, and he looked soft as butter against the Bruins the other night, and it makes you think twice about whether or not he can hack it in a 7-game series come playoff time.
Sure.
Change my mind. Go out there tonight, play with some jam, change my mind.
But yes, that is certainly important, especially like I said, if they were going to go out and upgrade on the right side, it's his spot you're probably trying to upgrade on, right? With most likely. All right. And so, but again, you got David Pastrnak took over that game. I want to see Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner do the same against Boston. Now, William Nylander had a good game against Buffalo. Those guys have to step up and have a pronounced game and saying we're taking this game over. Too.
Question for you: are you buying this discussion that was kind of being had online about Auston Matthews possibly playing hurt right now? You buying that?
No.
You seeing anything that makes you think, yeah, maybe?
Not really. I mean, he was out there quite a bit in overtime, right? Like
the only thing I will say, and look, I mean, everyone's playing with bumps and bruises at this point in the year. That's just that's hockey. When you're 60 games deep into a season, everyone's going to be banged up and not at 100%. He didn't look as though he had a whole lot of jump. Like, it didn't look as though he had, he was very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sluggish.
And not like it wasn't that he was sluggish, but like, just I can't remember. I'm honestly just blanking on the word here. And if I had the word at the tip of my mouth and I had it, it would make a lot more sense here. But urgency. That's where I was looking
Okay.
for. Didn't seem like he had a lot of urgency in his game, like in his skating in particular tonight. Even like if he was skating up ice, it didn't seem like he was trying to pull away from anybody. And he did on 3-on-3, obviously scored the overtime winner. But I don't know. It again, I just think it's more so the rigors of an 82 game season, and everyone's going to go through a couple of games. And hey, if Jake McCabe had the sniffles and couldn't play tonight, there's also a possibility that Auston Matthews could potentially have been dealing with a bit of a bug, but it played through it. Could also have been it.
Sheldon Keefe said quite a few players were hit by it, which, I mean, it feels like the Leafs are the only team that always kind of get hit by that bug.
Yeah. So we'll see if they can, if all those guys can bounce back, because it wasn't a great game on Monday. So we'll see if the big boys bounce back, and Liljegren, Joe Woll. I think there's a lot of guys who kind of want to put Monday in the rearview mirror and come out and dominate and earn 2 points. Because, like I said, this is a valuable 2 points in tonight's game, and they're gonna have to bring their A game to do it. I mean, Sheldon Keefe said it after the post game on Monday. Good isn't good enough against the Boston Bruins. You got to play great hockey to beat this team, because they're a great team. And you got to match it, if not surpass it. So that's what's in store for the Leafs tonight in Boston at that, by the way, on the road. All right, let's break. Let's come back. Lots of news to get to around the NHL. We'll try and rapid fire the six trades that went down in the National Hockey League on Wednesday. Who the heck else is even out there, Dave? We'll discuss that as well. On the other side, it's Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you by Factor. Eating better is easier with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You have over 35 different options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Also, there are more than 60 add-ons to help you stay fueled up and feeling good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goal. Pancakes, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. No prep, no mess. Factor meals are ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup needed. And it's flexible for your schedule, because you can get as much or as little as you need by choosing your meal every week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Sign up and save. We've done the math. Factor's less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved to be nutritious and delicious. Head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 and use code LOCKEDONNHL50 to get 50% off. That's code LOCKEDONNHL50 at factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 to get 50% off.
Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar that you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on that 3% match either. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with that 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match, and you must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA, available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. The NHL trade deadline is just, well, I guess as of now, it's tomorrow. It's just 1 day away. but you'd think that it was yesterday based on the amount of trades that we saw happen and some big time trades at that. 6 big deals going down on Wednesday. Let's kind of go through them really quickly. I think the biggest deal of the day was obviously the one that came down pretty late in the evening. Noah
Just before the
Hanifin.
Leaf game.
Yeah, it was right before the Leaf game, actually. It was funny. It got broke live on air on TNT by Elliot Friedman, who said, sounds like Hanifin to Vegas. I got to confirm, but it sounds like, it's like, what? It's like, yeah, I'll confirm, but that's what it sounds like. It's like, well, it's definitely happening. And it did. It's now been announced. We have the full details finally. It took like 4 hours for the details to actually come out, like the return for whatever reason. I guess they're trying to figure out which third team was going to retain an extra 25% of Hanifin's salary. But the details are in, and Noah Hanifin to the Vegas Golden Knights for a first-round pick, a conditional third-round pick, and then Danil Miramonov. I got to tell you, Dave, this feels very light for Noah Hanifin. Like, think about what people were talking about, what it would cost Toronto to get Hanifin. It ain't nowhere near. If it only cost a first and a conditional third, and then a 27-year-old nothing prospect, I really don't get why Toronto was considered a team that couldn't afford Hanifin. At that rate, they definitely could have. Very surprised by that return, especially considering you're hearing that Hanifin most likely will also be signing an extension to go along with this trade.
Yeah. So 2 things about this that I found interesting. One, I think I saw the Friedman tweet that said that, he's talking about the market for Vegas and that Vegas has for Hanifin, that Vegas has entered the conversation. I'm like, yeah, okay, so he's going to Vegas.
Yeah,
as
so
soon as
still,
I heard that. Yeah, when Vegas targets someone, they get them. Like, that's how they are. Here's what Craig Conroy had to say about the deal. Eric Francis tweeted this out. It was extremely important to us to ensure that this deal featured a first-round draft pick. Good job, Craig Conroy. I'm glad you made that a valuable, important part. And a third-round pick that has the potential to become a second-round selection. Additionally, we've been tracking Danil in the past couple of seasons. We were pleased to have been able to ensure he was part of this trade. Good size, good skating, and speed. He commands a heavy shot, and he was bringing up his AHL and hope that he can recreate some of what he's done in the AHL into the NHL.
Sure, maybe, perhaps, I guess.
Yeah.
Bobby McMahon blew up at 27 or bloomed into an NHL at 27, but like Miramonov's like 26, 27 years old. Yeah. He spent most of his career in Russia also, and now in the minors with a handful of games for Vegas. I don't see this as a big piece. That's more.
And he also signed an extension in Calgary too.
He did 2 years, 1.25 per year, which is interesting for a guy who
29 games of
NHLer. Like, it's not a full-time NHLer. You're giving this guy $1.25 million extension here. All right, whatever.
Got the Zach Bogosian deal.
Maybe I'll bite my tongue. Maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe he'll turn out to be a decent piece for Calgary when they win the cup in 2030 with all these draft picks and prospects. But that was a big deal, and that like Vegas, man, they get Mantha the day before, then they go out and they get Hanifin. That blue line is just hulkish. It is freakishly large and skilled and big and fast. It is such a great blue line, man. I don't know how teams are going to score on this Vegas team, dude. I don't know. For me, like, I was looking on FanDuel too. Their odds before the trade went from plus 1,300 to win the cup to like plus 950 after the trade.
Wow.
Yeah.
The funny thing is like a few hours ago, the big deal was Adam Henrique going to the Oilers. Mm-hmm. And then the Golden Knights are literally just like, hold my beer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go get Hanifin.
Yeah. Speaking of the Henrique deal, we'll move on and we'll talk about these other deals quickly. I like this for Edmonton. They gave up a first-round pick and a fifth-round pick to pick up Adam Henrique and our
boy Sammy Carrick
and Sam Carrick. I I like this deal for Edmonton. Like, I think Henrique was a player that I had said Toronto, if they were going to add a centerman, if they're going to add a forward, this was the player that I wanted them to target and was willing to give up a first round pick for. Obviously, so is Edmonton. So getting him in there, a guy who can play in your middle six, he can play down the middle, he can play on the wing, he'll kill penalties. He can play on your second power play if need be. Like, Adam Henrique is a very useful piece. And now that just continues to build out that depth down the middle for Edmonton. That's going to be a scary team. The West is just it was just keeping up with the Joneses all day, because you had Edmonton make a deal, you had Vegas make a deal, and then there was Colorado, who made two big trades today as well. They go out and they pick up Sean Walker from the Philadelphia Flyers for a first round pick, and Ryan Johansson also. We'll get to that in a sec, maybe. And then they also went and picked up Casey Middlestat from Buffalo for Bowen Byram. That trade came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe Buffalo had conversations with Middlestat and they realized that maybe they were just too far apart on a contract extension. So they thought, all right, let's move on from him and go get another young player who we think can bloom into a solid top four defenseman in Bowen Byram. We'll see what happens there. But you add Middlestat and Sean Walker to Colorado, boy, that's going to be a tough out there.
Well, after a week after, the Dallas Stars added Chris Tanev, and they're
Sean Monahan to Winnipeg too,
right? That Central Division is going to be a dogfest. Like, just to get out of that division, like even I've been so impressed with the Stars because they bring in Stan Coven, Wyatt Johnson continues to be a stud there, and like that's a good team. And I think if you're Colorado, you're just like, we got to keep up with these guys. Colorado, I don't know what the situation with Gabriel Landeskog is. I know he's been skating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they get him back for the playoffs, that's asking for a lot. I know.
I was not going to say that, actually. What I was going to say is I wouldn't be shocked if he's ready to go by game one of the playoffs. Much like Mark Stone, much like Jack Eichel, much like Alec Martinez, all of them are mysteriously going to be good to go for game one of the playoffs.
Well, Jack Eichel's back, at least.
Eichel's back. But Mark Stone, Alec Martinez now, he conveniently breaks his leg.
There's a meme. Did you see the meme of like the Stone Cold on Vince McMahon in the hospital?
That was
the
funny.
Vegas, it's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, maybe if they go out and get Jake Gensel, Jack Eichel mysteriously has to go back on LTIR.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, no. Apparently, they still have cap space, and then if they put,
of course,
Martinez on LTIR, and they get a double retention, they can fit him in. So like they're good, they're fine. It's absolutely maddening what the Vegas Golden Knights are doing. And yeah, the big fish that's still out on the market is Jake Gensel, obviously, and according to the insiders, the Vegas Golden Knights poking around. They're one of the front runners to land him somehow, some way.
Funny thing is, the condition of that first round pick in the Hanifin trade is that if they trade this pick, that pick then can go to 2026.
How hilarious is that? That's the condition. The condition is you get our pick in 2025, but if we decide to trade the pick, then you get the 2026.
You're going to get a first round pick, but we're going to decide which one you get.
Yeah, we're either going to use it in a trade for 2025, or you'll get it. If we use it, then you're getting 2026.
And look, Vegas is the prototype, and a lot of teams are like this, or certain teams are getting like this. You trade all these picks, but it doesn't matter because the guys you trade those picks for, they stick around, right?
Some of them, yeah.
Barbashev stuck around after he was acquired last year.
Stone,
Eichel,
yeah.
You get Pietrangelo. I mean, you signed him. I get that. But
Alec Martinez was a trade acquisition back in the day.
Yeah. That's what Vegas does. They don't really they get these guys in their prime. They don't get guys in their late 30s, mid 30s. They're getting guys in their prime, and then it's like, eventually Mark Stone, if his back injury gets so bad, okay, we'll ship you off to Arizona because they're going to take you for LTIR.
Exactly. exactly. Like
Masterclass of management right there by Kelly McCrimmon.
it is very impressive what they've been able to do there. Very impressive. And like there's slight jealousy about it all. Like I do wish that Toronto could operate like this, but I don't know why no other team is able to do this. There were a couple other deals that happened in the East, though. We just talked about mainly the West
Yeah.
deals and how the Western teams strengthened up. Florida and New York also making some additions. Alex Wenberg, who was another potential Maple Leafs target, if they were going to look to try and add another forward, he goes to the New York Rangers for a second and a fourth round pick. And then Vladimir Tarasenko to Florida for a third and a conditional fourth that can turn into a second third. What was the condition? I don't think I saw the condition.
I think it was about them if they went to was it them going to the Cup final?
I can't recall if it was Cup or Conference Final or if it was win 3 rounds or whatever it was. But regardless, 2/3 for Tarasenko is an absolute steal any way you look at it. Even if it is 2/3. As of now, it's just a third and a fourth. But even at 2/3, if the condition is met, 2/3.
Yeah. Sorry, the fourth becomes a third if Florida wins the Cup.
Yeah. So they got to win the Cup, and then it's like, okay, I guess we'll give you a third. Yeah. I think you'll be happy to give that up. It's just ridiculous. And look, I understand. If you are also like me when you saw that return, you're like, are you kidding me? If you peel it back, you look into the deal. Tarasenko had a no move clause, and supposedly the Florida Panthers were the only team he was willing to waive to. So you're negotiating against yourself at that point.
He wanted to play with goalie Bob. That's what it was.
What are you willing to give us, right? Like it was very similar to how Patrick Kane didn't get nearly what he should have got last year from the Rangers, and it's very similar to when Taylor Hall went from Buffalo to Boston. Same thing. Didn't get the haul that you expected, and it's because team players have, these protections and unfortunately it handcuffs the team, and that's what happened with Ottawa. So they only got, third and a fourth round pick at most, 2/3. And there's a lot of people in Ottawa pissed off about it because they thought Tarasenko could fetch them at least the 2. I thought at least the 2. Like,
lesson be learned here. Don't give players on 1-year deals no trade clause.
Well,
stop handing those out like candy. GMs are putting themselves in these situations.
I believe, like, isn't Domi and Bertuzzi? I think they got some no.
Bertuzzi has a no trade clause.
Yeah, he's got some protection there. Arizona, actually, they didn't have protection on Zucker's deal, so Zucker can get dealt wherever he wants. Same with Matt Dumba. They don't have much say, so they were smart, but they paid way more money to bring those guys in. They're like, all right, we'll pay you $5.5 million. The guy's only worth maybe 3.
So sometimes a no trade clause is the damn contract itself, Mike. You didn't realize that, but that's how it happens.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Max Domi has a modified no trade clause.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Like they're not getting dealt anyway. There's no point in this conversation. But Nick Seeler also signed an extension today as well, so he comes off the trade bait board. All in all, you look at the TSN trade bait board, absolutely pillaged on Wednesday. The second player, the third, the 6th, the 7th, the 11th, the 21st, the 42nd were all traded. And then Nick Seeler was the 27th player on the board. Zach Bogosian, who signed the other day, was a 29th player on the board. So all of those players gone ahead of the trade deadline on Friday. I don't know what the hell else we're going to be talking about on Friday. And, everyone who's working there at TSN and at Sportsnet and ESPN and whoever's got to do deadline conversations, boy, it's going to be a slow burn. Which couple of players and maybe which teams, though, are you keeping an eye on going forward that is still available? Or maybe we'll have that conversation tomorrow, perhaps.
I'll just put one out there just because I saw him talk about it during the intermission. That's Matt Dumba. That guy doesn't want to go away from the Leafs. As much as I know you're not a fan, it just right now I'm getting you prepared more than myself.
And look, I don't think it's gonna take a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. It'll probably only be like a 4th round pick or something like that.
at worst that 3rd round pick that they have.
Yeah, and like it'll end up being retained money. Like I'm not worried about the cost of Matt Dumba. I don't think it'll
It's
be a lot. It's just, Matt Dumba as a player. I don't think he's very good. He's not that big of an upgrade. Whatever. He'd be depth. We'll see. Again, hopefully I eat my words, and maybe Matt
hopefully there's
Dumba
another
will.
Ilya Lyubushkin, Luke Shen sort of scenario.
That's right. Maybe he finds the fountain of youth here in Toronto, and like he's not that old. Like he's only, I think, 29 years old. I want to say Dumba. Like he's not that old, but he had a couple injuries that kind of derailed his career. Like at one point, Dumba was a stud. Like he was a stud his first few years when he was in Minnesota. I think he had like 50 points the one year. Like he was a stud.
I'm 2 years older than Matt Dumba. So
Yeah, so he's
old.
28 years old. Yeah,
29, going to go on 30 this year.
Yeah. Gensel, Bushnevich, Toffoli, Eberle, those guys still out there. So we'll see. We'll see what Thursday has in store for us. Maybe we'll see some more deals on Thursday. But for the sake of everyone working the trade centers on both networks, hopefully the GMs could just hold off on Thursday and just do it all on Friday. Just do it all on Friday. We don't need to see 4 hours of skits. Want to see some good hockey talk. You know what I mean? All right, buddy. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs coverage. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back for another episode for you guys tomorrow. We'll be recapping tonight's game between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Go Leafs, go. Get it done. Big game. Super important. We'll chat tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.